With 2022 coming to a close and 2023 coming around the corner, I decided for my New Year's resolution was to conform to the internet trends. Make the same type of video that you've seen at least 30 times within the last month. But I wanted to do it with a twist. And that twist is that it's my opinion. So how about we count down the best... Camera is rolling and we are rolling. And I'm rolling you with this list. That didn't make much sense. So in total, I watched 31 2022 released films. That might not be a lot to some people, or it might be a lot to some people, whatever. I think it was actually the perfect amount of films that I saw, because I think I saw everything that I really wanted to see. And with watching films that come out every year, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, maybe I should check out the film that everyone says is really boring and there's nothing really redeemable about it. So all the films that I watched, none of them were terrible. Actually, no, wait, Blonde. Sorry. That was pretty bad. But everything else was just like, I don't really like it, or like it's okay. But I'm here to talk about the films that I did like. But before we get into the list, I have to mention the films that I did not check out that could have made this list if I had the time to check them out. And, just circumstances, just how it works out, I ended up not checking them out. So let's just take a moment of silence to remember those films. Oh man. I don't even know when I'm going to watch that. Yeah, I was going to watch that, but didn't get the chance to. Oh man. I don't even know when I'll get the time to watch that. So I'm going to be counting down the best films that I watched this year, starting from 21. Just because of the best human being on the world, 21 Savage. Just want to respect him. So I'm counting down the best films that I saw, starting at
21.
I'm not typically a fan of films that have multiple storylines in them that don't exactly connect together. There are definitely exceptions that I really liked. The French Dispatch last year was really great, and it's a great example. And this, The House, is another great example of how to do it. I just found everything about it was just so interesting and kind of unique. Like, it's this like childlike wonder yet kind of eerie and creepy vibe to it that I just really found really cool. And like they're just the whole movie is just little creepy British people and cats and little British rats, and I don't know, it's just a little interesting movie. And like I feel like if I watched it as a kid, I would have been like super creeped out. And like I watched it on a plane and I was like, I don't know if it's a perfect plane movie, but hey, it works for watching it on a plane. This is one of many films that came out this year that has such a simple premise, but because of the way it's executed, it just works really well. I thought overall it's just a really fun time. It works on being like creepy and scary. It works on being like fun. Like it's a really enjoyable film. And it's goofy when it needs to be, and it's creepy when it needs to be, and every time it works so well. I would say this is probably one of the most fun and unique experiences I've had at theater, and I think if you watch it at a theater, it's going to make the experience much better. What I'm most curious about is how it's going to hold up on rewatch. It's getting a lot of praise, and people are saying it's an amazing film, but I'm interested to see if it's going to have that same effect. Like how Dunkirk did, how everyone was kind of raving about it. Like it's a great experience, but storytelling wise, it's not the greatest. And then with it, you're viewing it at home, does it really hold up? I think it could, but I'm interested to see how it will hold up on a rewatch. But the thing is, it's not a film for me personally that I'm like dying to rewatch. Not to say it's a bad film. It's really strong in creating this world. I think it creates a world that you can connect to, and then they have this grandiose, action-packed ending, which doesn't feel mind-numbing because you've explored and connected with this world, and then James Cameron's like, okay, now that you love this world so much, the bad guys are gonna take it away. So you probably feel sad for them, right? And it's like, yeah, I do. So it works on that. I'm glad it didn't focus solely on Jake Sully, because Jake Sully is a little, I don't know, he's just a little bland little guy. He's not little, sorry. He's 9 feet tall. My bad, dude. But focusing on kind of the family aspect I thought was good. And yeah, it's just a fun, I was gonna say, I don't know why I keep on saying little. Like I'm really downgrading and like downselling what it is. It's a big film with big, huge people. It's a good big movie. Director Cooper Raff is really good at telling coming of age stories that focus on people that are like into college and kind of in the early 20s, which I think is an age that coming of age films don't really rely on, but I think more of them should, because it's that time of your life where you're kind of lost. But the film really does handle showing this age where you're kind of like not sure what I'm gonna do, what is there to do, and finding kind of meaning in that and finding a purpose. And I think this film, just like Cooper Raff's other film Shithouse, which I think is equally as good, really kind of explores kind of like, oh yeah, like you're at that point where you don't know what to do. And the performances from everyone is just really great. There's a lot of great moments that the film delivers, and it's just a really heartwarming film that I think anyone can like. This is another warm, comforting film. I just thought, just like Cha Cha Real Smooth, we got some great performances. It just feels like a nice little cozy film that you can watch. Story-wise, sure, it's not doing like anything great, but I don't think it needs to be. It focuses on these characters, and that's kind of the main part of the film, is showing these characters and seeing them change, and like how they are connecting is just really the most important part, and I think that's the best part of this. This is definitely the most surprising film that I saw this year. Not that I doubted it. I was really intrigued going in, but I think the trailers and marketing do kind of make it seem like in your face, kind of like, oh, Gen Z, boo boo boo. We know all the Gen Z slang, and like, oh, this is cool. And yeah, the film does have like Gen Z slang, and it has these Gen Z characters, but I think what it's good at doing is like kind of portraying Gen Z. It's kind of showing it in a more like creative and funny way, and like more honest. It's not making them, it never like downplays like, oh, these guys are always on their phone, or it never like glorifies it. That's not even the main thing of the film. It's not to show Gen Z. It's mainly this murder mystery. But I think what I found the most interesting from this film was the character interactions, because sure, the murder mystery is like a huge element in it, but I found the character interactions and showing how these characters are interacting was way more engaging than finding out like who the murderer is. And I think that's why I didn't find the ending to it that disappointing than I think a lot of other people's did. I'm a fan of Martin McDonagh's previous films, and even though this isn't my favorite out of his work, that doesn't mean it's not really good by any means. Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson are like one of the best duos in any film that I've seen this year. And also Barry Keoghan is just so good in this film as well. I think it's just another simplistic story that, because of Martin McDonagh's style and his comedic timing, but also blending this dramatic and really depressing underlying tones and themes in it, just really makes it work. It's a film that blends so many emotions, but none of these emotions like ever feel out of place. They feel perfectly fitted. It's a nice film that has so many pieces working for it, and that just makes it a strong, really good film. Top Gun Maverick is definitely the most like crowd pleasing film that I've seen this year, but like, how can you not at least enjoy it? It's just, not only is it just a fun time, but it elevates itself and it makes it way better than its predecessor, the original Top Gun, which I hadn't seen until viewing Top Gun Maverick, because I was like, hey, I want to catch up on the Top Gun lore. You don't need to, because Top Gun is so 80s, and so there's honestly, it's okay. What works in Top Gun Maverick way more than the first film is how it brings kind of an emotional element to it. It shows you the connections between the characters and what it really means. It brings more to the film, so that it's not just like, oh, they have to do this crazy mission, are they going to be able to pull it off? That's still engaging to watch. The action scenes are just amazing, and the flying the jets is so fun to see. But it has that emotional element that it's like, yeah, so now I care for why they're doing this mission. This is another unexpected banger, not because I denied the skill level of Guillermo del Toro, but because Pinocchio is something that everyone and their granny has seen. That thing is repetitive, man. Why would I want to see it again, right? No, but Guillermo del Toro elevates Pinocchio. It has so much working for it. It elevates it with its emotional aspects that even the original Disney film didn't do. Like, I think this is way better than the original Disney film. It brings so many interesting, themes that I didn't think a Pinocchio film could have. I think how the story sets up the death of Geppetto's son at the very start, and then you see the impact it has throughout the whole film. I just think it's really beautifully done. And yeah, it's a really good film that I didn't expect to be. I thought it would be good, but I didn't think it'd be this good. The direction in this from Park Chan-wook is probably some of the most creative and really interesting directing that I've seen from a film this year. I think just the way he's able to create his own style, but also bringing back like kind of old school Hollywood style. Like, it's very Alfred Hitchcock like, but it's kind of its own thing. And I think what I found it really the most interesting and unique was how Park Chan-wook was able to show how creatively he can use film as a medium to tell a story and explore different things, because it's a murder mystery and you're seeing different perspectives from different characters. I think it's great how scenes from different times and different places are able to connect to each other. Yeah, it's a really like solid and engaging murder mystery film. 2022 was lacking in manly man films. Then we got The Northman. That thing is so cool, how it's like so masculine. It's like, oh, we got these wolf guys, and they're yeah. Robert Eggers is a director that I really like. His films are just really cool, and he's a director that I can guarantee you is actually from the 15th century, and then time traveled to 2015, and then started making movies, and he's just undercover because he's actually some dude from another time period, and he's a time traveler guy. And that's why his movies are so good. They are so rich in history, and he makes it so immersive with the music, with this great cinematography, with the characters and dialogue that he brings to it. All of his films, this one especially, is really great in immersing you into this time period. And yeah, the story is simplistic, but because of his great execution and direction, and also the great performances, it takes it up to another level. It takes it up to another notch, and it's just a really engaging film that just immerses you into this world, which is great. So this is where the films get good. You thought those films were good. Well, they are. That obviously they're great. But these ones, I just think, are a little bit better. So this is the top 10 of the year. Get ready. It feels kind of unfair that I'm, picking these films and kind of ranking them and putting them together, kind of comparing them. But it's a list. But the thing is, my opinion can change. So like this list doesn't mean it's definitive. Just at this time, as of recording on December 30th, 2022 at 5:15 p.m. This is my top 10 films of 2022. This thing could have been so corny and just so unbelievably cheesy, but because it's Steven Spielberg, one of the greats, one of cinema's top dogs, this thing is amazing. Yeah, I just love how there's not a single actor in this film that is not just okay. Everyone here is great. Even the monkey, that monkey was so good at his job. Paul Dano as well. It's so interesting seeing Paul Dano in this and then watching the Batman where he's like literally like a little maniac freak, and then in this one he's like this wholesome, genuinely like nice father for the most part. It could have been extremely one-noted, but knowing Paul Dano and what he's capable of, he elevates this role. And everyone else in the film, I'm not just saying Paul Dano. Everyone in the film is great and brings a level that makes the film worth watching and makes it so engaging. The performances are so great in this. Not to say anything else, everything else is just okay. Direction, cinematography, all of this is great. It's such a heartwarming film, and how it explores and shows filmmaking and kind of the passion behind it, I think is really interesting, and it never feels forced. It never like, okay, you have to cry. There are pieces where it does seem like this is where it becomes sad, but it never becomes emotionally manipulative, which is great. Now, this is the most underrated film of the year. I haven't seen that many people talking about it, but I think it's a film that, should have more people talking about it. It's so unbelievably itself, and it stays true with its authenticity of it. It's just so fun to watch. It's if you don't know what it's about this high schooler who is trying to be a cartoonist, but he drops out of school, and then he meets up with this guy who is kind of like mentally unstable. This guy that he befriends used to be this cartoonist that he like somewhat looked up to. It's such a bizarre and strange film. That's not a downgrade on the film. That's why it works so well, because it has this strange and unique style and tone to it. It's just so fun to watch. There's weird characters that you meet along the way, and like the interactions between all of them are just so like funny to watch. Now, this is one of the most fun movies that I've seen this year. How can you not just be like, yes, yeah? Glass Onion makes me go like, yeah, that was so much fun. It's like riding a slide 10 times while eating candy, and you're also solving a mystery while you're going down the slide. So it's like, oh, who's eating all the candy? It's me, because I'm having a fun time. Boom, that's what Glass Onion is like. Compared to the first Knives Out, it is way more like large scale. What makes Knives Out so good is also incorporated in this one. It never feels repetitive or like, okay, like let's bring back from the first one. There's great kooky little crazy characters that are so fun to watch and engaging to see their little character interactions. As well, there's the comedy there is consistent, and it's like the first one. This film has a lot more of showing different interpretations of how scenes play through. So you're seeing scenes happen again, which might seem repetitive and like, oh, but it's actually really fun and engaging to watch, and that's why I think it's a film that can get better on rewatch, just like the first Knives Out, because you see like, oh, you see their true intentions, and oh, that's why that character was doing that. After Sun is the most fresh in my mind movie on this list, solely because I watched it last week, and I thought, okay, this is really good. There's a lot of great moments, but as a whole, I'm not really clicking with it or connecting with it the way I think the film wants me to. But throughout last week, it's been something that's been on my mind, thinking about those moments and, thinking about the film. I'm like, hey, why don't I give it another try? And I think it's something that, is great to do with movies, is, to rewatch it, because you can get so much more out of a rewatch, and this was no exception. And watching it last night, it just clicks and connects and sticks with me way more than it did the first watch. I think it deserves a rewatch just because of its subtlety in its filmmaking with the acting, the great performances from Paul Pascal and Frankie Corio. It never feels like, oh, you're supposed to feel this way, that's why the characters are acting like this. It just shows you like, okay, these are how the characters are feeling, and you can interpret the way you want it to, which I think makes this film way more special than it could have been. It's such a, deeply personal film that I think you can get a lot out of after several rewatches. It's a film that I can see growing on me over time. It's just a really special film that works so well. And I think also there's so many cool and like little clever shots that the film does that I appreciated more on the second watch. I think I talked about this more than any other films from this year because it's that good. 2022 has been the year for showing condescending rich white people in the media, and Triangle of Sadness was probably one of my favorites of this year. White Lotus season 2, that thing was a banger. Go check it out. Okay, we're just gonna do a little break to tell you why you should watch The White Lotus season 2. Okay, number 1, it's so fun, and these people are rich white snobs, but they are also douchebags that just, have feelings, and it's so interesting to watch them get pummeled down, and they're getting exposed, ha ha ha. And number 2, Christopher from The Sopranos is in it, and he's really good. Number 3, Aubrey Plaza. Okay, back to what I was talking about, Triangle of Sadness. Triangle of Sadness has characters that you should kind of despise, and you kind of do, but they're just so entertaining and engaging to watch. I think the first act and the third act are the best. Not to say that second act was not good. First and third act explored more of the main character's relationship. Second act is really good. It doesn't explore that as much. It's not just a clever, witty film that has, funny moments to it. It also explores different themes of class. I think the main score in the film that's used a few times throughout the film is probably one of my favorite composed pieces in films this year. Go watch Triangle of Sadness, especially if you like Fred again, and you'll see why. As you may or may not know, I'm a big fan of Matt Reeves' Planet of the Apes trilogy, more like Planet of the Monkeys. Planet of the Monkeys trilogy. How pissed off are you now? Are you pissed off, huh? I said monkeys. I called them. And I think seeing Matt Reeves tackle the Batman is so fun and cool to watch, his perspective on it. And I think the world building of Gotham is probably my favorite interpretation of it. It's not exactly the most realistic, but it's so, I think, just the vibe of it and the aesthetic is just so cool. And that's kind of what the whole film is. It's not a surface level film by any means, too. I think the actors bring another level to the film. Robert Pattinson is probably my favorite interpretation of Batman, just because I love Robert Pattinson so much, and because it's kind of like a realistic version of what it could be. It's kind of more modernized. Like, yeah, this guy is literally like seeing people die and like fighting crimes. Why would Bruce Wayne be kind of like jolly? He's like in this film, Bruce Wayne is like this little emo, hides in his room the whole day kind of guy. And it's like, yeah, I respect that. He's literally me. And there's also like a specific charm that the film has, and I think what the actors have. It's serious, but it kind of has this little element of like campiness to it. And I think the actors, especially like Colin Farrell and Paul Dano, they know what the film is, and they're like, okay,
maybe we can talk about what they did to my partner's face.
Holy God, what are you showing me?
His head.
Come on! This is definitely the perfect film for Luca Guadagnino. After showing what he can do in Call Me by Your Name, showing this like emotionally devastating and heartbreaking story of these two people, and then you see Suspiria and you see like, oh, he can actually do like really creepy, messed up stuff too. He blends that, you get kind of creepy, messed up stuff here, but it's also a love story. It's a story of these two people connecting in an emotionally devastating way. It's just so good how it brings so many aspects, but none of them fall flat. It is kind of creepy, but it is really like emotional in a lot of aspects too. Performances by Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell, they're literally acting circles around everyone this year, man. They are acting their heart out. They are so good in this film. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, their score, I love those guys. They're so good with their little techno scores. And it's such a tricky story to tell on paper because it has so like intense, dark subject matter, but you're supposed to like kind of root for these characters even though they're literally like morally corrupt and have like serious problems with them. You're like, oh, I feel bad for them. You should feel sympathy. And if it was anyone else other than Luca Guadagnino, you would probably not care and just feel weirded out. But because it's Luca and he knows how to tell a good film, he makes it work. This is such a film that it just feels like it's made for me. Like, it's like, yes. As a huge fan of Chazelle's work, Whiplash is one of my favorite films. But Babylon is so just grandiose and it's so spectacular. And it's just such a huge spectacle kind of film. And it never, pulls you away. There is moments where, it is kind of slowed down. But being a 3-hour long film, you never feel like, I never felt bored watching it. It's such an engaging film. All the performances are great. The amount of passion and craft that this film has, not only you can see it through Damien Chazelle, how he's able to, put so much passion into the film, but you also see the passion and craft from the characters within the film as well, which is a really like strong underlying tone. Brad Pitt is so good in this film. He's just so funny. And the first scene that we see him in with his wife is probably one of the funniest things I've seen in a film this year. It's such a good film that I can see myself rewatching so many times. You knew it. It had to be on this list. It's a film that I think everyone's talking about, but it's a film that it's well deserved of everyone hyping it up because it's such a great and unique film. I can't really say anything else that everyone has been talking about. I think it delivers on creating this weird and unexpected journey for these characters. It's a film that's not only just really great and crazy, and it's a film that also it pulls you away and has really great smaller moments that have really great emotional beats that I didn't expect would hit so hard watching it. If you haven't realized, a lot of the films that I've talked about on the list are films that aren't restricted in kind of one aspect or kind of one genre, but kind of expand into different genres or expand into different aspects. And Nope is probably my favorite of doing that. It has the most unsettling, creepy moments in any film that I've watched. Not only this year, but I think in the last few years. But it also has some of the funniest moments that I've seen from a film this year.
What I think is great about this film and what I love from other films that kind of explore mysterious and tragic events is kind of showing how these characters deal with it and showing how they're understanding it. And I think that's way more interesting than as a viewer understanding what it actually is. And that's why I love this film so much. And yeah, every actor in here is just really great and they all have a moment to shine. And how all these characters interact and connect with each other is not only really great, but there's also really like funny moments from that. And I love, while this movie is a spectacle in itself, it's also kind of a love letter to creating a spectacle and and filmmaking kind of as a whole as well. It kind of is a tribute to that, which I really love.
And I think that this year, more than a lot of other years, has movies that are love letters to movies and movie making in general, and showing a true passion for the craft, which I think is really great. And I think now is the best time to show that, with the ways times kind of are changing. Now studios are looking into creating more content like media that is just more profitable. I think we need to be reminded that, yeah, movies are dope. They're cool, you know? And they can change how you look at things, and they're not only great for viewing in the moment, but I think they're great for thinking and reflecting on outside of the moment. And I think they're just really special.